take you through that. I'll flip it myself. Now, in the meantime, those of you who have your individual issues and you want to raise it with Jane and Bernadette, please go to the back. Please don't try and make too much noise, and then she will actually attend to you and if you have your documentation, etc. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just very quickly through I want to take you through the 2017, 2018 budget. As we've highlighted that the Fijian economy has been growing for the past 8 years and is set to grow for another 3 years. Now, you can see that whenever we have a cyclone, etc., you go into negative growth areas. And so this is for the first time in Fiji's history, we've had economic growth for more than 8 years consecutively. The recent figures that has been released by the Bureau of Statistics shows that the unemployment has actually dropped to 5.5%. It's the lowest it's been in the past 15 years. But one thing, the overall rate of youth unemployment is higher than 5.5%. The total average for Fiji, unemployment is 5.5%, but for employment it is slightly higher. This is why I continue with the retirement age. But you can see, when the economy grows, it means that the government can make more revenue. When the government can make more revenue, obviously, we have the ability to provide better facilities. We do roads, bridges, jetties, whatever the case may be, and connect people to the electricity. What are the areas that contribute to growth? Agriculture, fisheries and forests, you can see, is extremely low. Manufacturing is quite high, and construction. You can see everywhere there's a lot of construction going on. Today, because construction levels are so high, we have construction companies bringing in workers from Bangladesh, from Philippines, from Indonesia. You know, I don't mean just simply laying tile over here, but this is laying tile in hotels and various other highly skilled trades jobs. And this is one area that we believe has a lot of opportunities. We also believe there's opportunities in the medical services field, and we'll be some announcements in respect of some public-private partnership arrangements we'll be carrying out very soon in the medical health area. And a lot of you, of course, will also get new employment opportunities through that entity. As a government, we have to ensure that we are not only dependent on one or two things to grow the economy. You know, generally in Fiji it's been sugar. It's now sugar and tourism. But that's a very bad place to be in. You know, when we had Cyclone Winston, originally Cyclone Winston was supposed to come from Vanonbalawu up through the top, come through Lomaiviti, hit Suva, Nasori, Nasinu, go through the middle of the island and hit Nandi. If it had done that, we would have been economically far worse off. Because one of the good things that happened out of Cyclone Winston, most of the hotels did not get damaged. So we were able to get back the visitors very quickly. And when we do that, we get more money coming in very quickly. Winston cost us $1.4 billion US. That's a lot of money. So, you know, sewage systems get washed away, roads, bridges, water. 6,000 kilometers of electrical cables fell down in Cyclone Winston. 6,000 kilometers. We have to put it back up. Now, God forbid, if we have another cyclone this cyclone season, it'll all come back down again. I don't know how many of you recently been to Nandi. You see the 4-lane road that we've done in Nandi, that comes out of Nandi Airport and Maka Matintar. What's one thing you notice? There is no overhead cables. We've put the cables underground. So next time there's a cyclone, there's nothing to blow down. But it costs us about $25 million more. Traditionally, in Fiji, when the roads were built, if this is the road, they put the water pipe underneath the road. When the water pipe has a leak, we don't know about it, you get a lot of potholes. Then people say, oh, there's a lot of potholes, you know, pothole and cover. Then eventually somebody discovers the water pipe is leaked. In order to fix up the water pipe, you have to break the road. So to fix one infrastructure, you damage another one. So this is why the four-laning of the road that we've done, we've asked Water Authority to take out all the water pipes as much as possible and put it on the side of the road. Cables are on the side of the road. It costs a lot more money. But for the long term, this is what you call building resilience in your infrastructure. So our economic growth actually needs to be centered on building back better and making sure that the story I was telling about the cyclone, if we have a number of things that help contribute towards your growth, just because one gets damaged, it doesn't mean we are therefore will slow down. That's what you call spreading your risk. Inflation. You know, how prices go up and down. Two major things affect inflation in Fiji. One of them, both of them we don't have any control over. One of them is the price of fuel, world price of fuel. You can see inflation here went up as high as 10% in 2011. Why? Because the price of fuel was about 147 US dollars a barrel. Today, the price of fuel is about $47 a barrel, US dollars. So, all this electricity you're using today, if Monosabu Dam is full, about 65% of the electricity generated through Monosabu. Water, it's free. But the rest of it, we run by diesel. All your cars in a bucket are run by diesel. So if the price of fuel goes up internationally, we have no control over it. So inflation goes up. So you can see when the price of fuel came down, it went down here, sitting at 2%. That's nice. Over here it goes up because of Cyclone Winston. After Winston, a small bundle of bananas in Suva cost 20 bucks. A bundle of beans, long beans, was $5. But of course, when it stabilizes, then the prices come down. Yagona till today costs $120 a kilo. Some people still drink it at the same rate, unfortunately. But the fact of the matter is that inflation, you can see from because of Winston, it went up. Now it's come down, it's around about 2%. So you have to be aware of what are the things that actually causes prices to go up. This is very important. Foreign reserve. If I can use somebody as an example, if this lady here, she's wearing these rings, she's wearing a watch, she's got sunglasses, she's got her shoes, she's got a hand purse, she's got this top. All of these things comes from overseas. The top may be sewn in Fiji, but the fabric comes from overseas. Maybe she's got gel in her hair, that comes from overseas. This mic that I'm holding comes from overseas. This, whatever you call these things, comes from overseas. The screen comes from overseas. The laptop comes from overseas. So when we buy things from overseas, when they sell it to us, they don't sell it to us in Fijian dollars. They sell it to us in US dollars, Japanese yen, Australian dollars, New Zealand dollars, euros. All our fuel is bought from Singapore. They trade in US dollars. So we need to have enough foreign reserves to trade with them. They don't take Fijian dollars. And generally when a country has very little foreign reserves and they can't trade, people say, oh, that country is going bankrupt. So you must have enough foreign reserves to be able to trade. International benchmark says, you see this shaded line here, that one there, and you see these are the number of months. It says you must have at least 4 months worth of foreign reserves to be stable. And other countries will see you stable. In 2004, we had only $549 million worth of foreign reserves, which gave us about 2.3 months of trading. Today, we have $2.3 billion. 2.3 billion, we've never had it. In fact, that figure is old. Just a few days ago, it went up to $2.4 billion. That gives us 5.8 months of trading. Now, why is it, somebody may ask, over here 1.9 billion, but 5.9 months, over here 2.3, but 5.8. Why? Because people are spending more. You just go around to Nakasi on a Saturday. You see the amount of spending that people are doing. A lot more people in Fiji today have electricity. I was in the Western Division and I was talking to some of the retailers. They said they could not believe it, how people in the interior of Lautoka and Ba and various other places are coming and buying fridges You know, that cost $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 because they've just got electricity for the first time. But you see, that fridge is not made in Fiji. The washing machine they're now buying is not made in Fiji. So even despite the large spending, we have about 5.8 months of foreign reserves. A lot of people don't understand this. When Fiji Airways went and bought 3 brand new A330 aircraft, they borrowed a little bit of money from FNPF. The bulk of the money they borrowed was from European banks. So when a European bank wants to lend money, when they set the interest rate, they look at the foreign reserve. They say, oh, good foreign reserve, not a risky country, so the interest will be low. If there is less foreign reserve, it's a risky country, higher interest rate. So this is a huge impact on how we trade. Okay, fiscal deficit. What does this mean? You know how you always hear stand up and say the deficit is this, deficit is that. Right from the Ratumara government days, right up till now, we've never had a surplus deficit, except for 3 times. What does that mean? It means every year, government spends more than what it collects. It's like, you know, you take home salary of $100, but you can spend $120. The $20 is in out. It's credit. Right? Most governments in the world run deficits because governments generally do that. They don't collect as much. Today, to go and get a birth certificate at the BDM costs you $2.25. But the cost of giving that BDM to you, that birth certificate to you, is a lot more. The photocopying paper, the ink, the staff, the buying of the printer is a lot more than $2.25. But we give it to you at $2.25 because it's a service that everybody requires. Most people that come to the hospitals don't pay a single cent for the services you offer. It's free. Or it's like $43. So, you know, if you stay a few days in the paying ward, other people don't pay a single cent. So the fact of the matter is that governments run deficits. But the trick is, you see, this is the zero. In other words, if your budget is at 0, that means you balance it out. The amount of money you spend and the amount of money you collect is the same. That's what you call a balanced budget. This is a deficit. The longer the line, the worse off you are. We try to not have long lines. 2001, 2002, all these long lines here. We have tried to run a smaller deficit. But you can see because of Winston, the deficit went up. Just because of Winston, we had to borrow $225 billion. A lot of nursing stations got damaged. $170 million went to rebuilding schools. A lot of civil service quarters in the outer islands got damaged. All of those things, roads, bridges, jetties. That's why we don't like cyclones. It kills people and it costs a lot of money. So that's what deficits are. So you know exactly what it means, but you can see on the average deficit run about 2.4% of GDP. However, government revenue, we've managed to triple government revenue in the past few years. You see, government collected in 2004 $1.1 billion. Today, we collect $3.8 billion. So the more revenue we make, the less money we have to borrow. The more revenue we make, the higher pay rise you can get. It's a fact. We have to be able to have a stable economy to be able to give you more. How do you think we can jump from $9 to $20 in a meal allowance? Nobody ever thought about it. People thought, oh, maybe from $9 to $11.50 or something. People are suggesting. So you have to understand that this is what's happening actually. Now, what are the things that contributes to our revenue? Pay taxes, value-added tax, customs. There's still a lot of what I call chorrowing going on within the economy. A lot of business people are stealing from the system till today. This is why on Friday we passed a new law that any businesses that do not pay the right taxes, more than $1.5 million gross turnover, will now name them. So you should know that that supermarket chain is the one that's stealing from the system, and hopefully you won't go and shop there. You'll go and shop somewhere else. This is called name and shame. A lot of that is happening. Of course, we have things like departure tax, ECAL. This is new Environment Climate Adaptation Levy. These are the areas that contribute towards government revenue. Please, you can ask me any questions if you don't understand anything. Now, we put here infrastructure development, health, education, access to justice, and social protection together. These are what you call the social expenditures. Social protection, as you know, we give welfare assistance to single mothers, abandoned children. We have now, of course, the new pension that we started a few years ago. Most of you work, all of you work actually. So when you retire, you'll have FNPF. There are many women in Fiji, many villagers in Fiji, many farmers in Fiji who don't actually have FNPF because they never worked for anybody. When they get old, they don't have any pension. And you'd be surprised, I'm sure you see this, many, traditionally in Fiji, if you were the parent, when you get older, your children look after you. Then when they get older, their children look after them. That's the way things have worked, but now this changed. You'd be surprised how many elderly people are getting abandoned. How many children no longer look after their parents. So a few years ago we started that if you were over the age of 70, you had never had FNPF, we gave you $30 a month. Then we brought it down to 68, gave you $50. In this budget we announced at 65, we've kept it at 65, we'll give you $100 a month. So all of that comes out from social protection. Access to justice, legal aid. We now have legal aid officers in every major town and city, in Kandavu, Ovalau, Nambuwalu, Tamuni, Rotuma, everywhere else. They have the largest number of lawyers. Abandoned children, maintenance, custody battles. We also help anybody to write a will. Please remember this, you must write a will. A lot of people think only rich people should write a will. If you have a property, even if you have a house or even a car, please make a will. Because I have seen so many people, when people die, how people fight over their assets. If you have FNPF, please fill out a nomination form. Nominate the people you want the money to go to. A lot of people forget to do that. Then you have everybody fighting over it. So legal aid helps you to do that. Legal aid now also helps you to do probates. Education, of course, because of free education, things have gone up. I'll show that to you. Health, you see the budget for health, we've increased it quite substantially. And this is, of course, infrastructure development. Tell me if I'm going too fast. I'm trying to finish a few things. Now, this is very important. Every year when we allocate the budget, there are two types of expenditure. There's what you call the operating expenditure, and the other one is your capital expenditure. So operating expenditure is your salary. Operating expenditure is photocopying paper. Operating expenditure is the fuel that they use to go and drop you off when you work at night. Operating expenditure is buying the medical supplies. Is buying the toilet paper. The day-to-day expenditure. Capital expenditure is what you spend to build something. So we're building a Makoi maternity unit. That's what you call a capital expenditure. Operating expenditure is the day-to-day expenditure. So I've come here, the car that brought me here, the fuel for that car is operating expenditure. My salary, your salary is all operating expenditure. Operating expenditure is something that once you spend it, you've got nothing to show for it, the next money's gone. Capital expenditure is when you spend it, you got something to show for it. Like the Makoi Hospital, part of the build it, the money comes from there. But it's a capital expenditure. So as a government, we should spend more money in capital. In particular, if you're borrowing money to show something for it. The example that I use with the school kids in the budget consultations, I used to say to them, assuming you all want to go and have a big party in McDonald's, but you don't have any money, you go to ANZ or whichever bank, and they give you the money to have your party at McDonald's. You go to McDonald's, you have the party, you eat the burgers, drink the drinks. In the morning you wake up, the burgers are gone, the drinks are gone, but you have the debt. There's nothing to show for it. But if you went to ANZ and you borrowed money to build something, after the building is built, the debt is there, the building is there. After a few years' time, the debt is gone, but the building is still there. In the same way, we build the 4-lane road in Nandi. We build that now. The future generations, your children don't need to build that road. It's already there. So it's better to build it now than to build in the future because it costs less now. That's what you call capital expenditure. You can see the difference. In 2004, 83% of the money that they spent in that year went to operating expenditure. So the following year, you got nothing to show for it. Only 17% went into capital. This year, as you see, we've been increasing it. Only 59% goes into operating. 41% goes into capital expenditure. It's very important. And that capital expenditure should be in productive use. I'll give very quickly an example. We've got rural electrification program. When you drive along the highway, so you could drive along King's Road, and the guy is selling fish by the roadside. When they're selling the fish to you by the roadside, they have no electricity. When they can't sell the fish by the afternoon, they'll bring down the price. If they still can't sell it, they either have to eat the fish, or they give it to somebody else, or the fish rots. The moment you connect them to electricity, that fisherman, that villager is not going to bring down the price of fish. Because he knows he's now got a cooler. Right? So you're selling for $20 a bundle, sell it $20 a bundle all day. He's not able to sell it, he'll put it in the cooler, the next day he'll put it out on the road again, throw some fresh water, you drive past it, fresh fish for sale. Still selling $20. You've increased his or her income level, the productive capacity. When they go out to fish, they can fish more. So this is where you should be spending money towards what you call productive capacity. Now this is just to show you how much money you've been spending. Good old PWD days, 55 million here. Now you're spending about $528 million in roads, bridges, and jetties. Same thing, sorry. Oh. Same thing for water and energy. Again, for example, you can see how much money spent, $360 million. A lot more people. There are people till today, I remember 10 years ago, we went to so many parts of Vanua and so many parts of Viti Levu where people were still drinking from creeks. People drinking from wells with tadpoles in it. That has reduced, but there's still some people in that position till today. The things we take for granted living in a place like Suva, Nosori, Lemi, you should see how some people are actually living. We need to be able to connect them to those amenities. This electricity here costs 34 cents a unit. So those people who earn less than $30,000 a year, we have said to them, we will subsidize your electricity cost. So out of the 34 cents, we pay 17 cents. We don't ask FEA to give it to them for 70 cents. FEA charges 34 cents, we pay 17 cents. Because we want FEA to also run well. It needs to be run independently. So we pay that. So that's money for that comes there from there too. Education, you can see how funding, the education went up here, 2013. That's when we brought in free education, all the way from now early childhood, all the way up to year 13. And we've got now tertiary scholarships. All of that comes through there. And that's increased quite substantially. In this year's budget, we've increased TELS and all the subsidies for that. Health, that's where you get, you come in. You can see how the funding has increased. We now get $388 million, Ministry of Health. That includes also your capital expenditure too. So for example, we're building a new hospital in Kayasi. The money for that comes from there, completion of Makwe, but predominantly is to do with the operational cost. I urge you, and I'll give you the website, please go to that and you can see exactly which department in your ministry gets what amount of money. Please, you should know this. It's all up on the website and I'll show it to you where you can get that information from. Now, this is what I talked to you earlier on. From here to here is how much we make in what we call operating revenue. And the brown bit, or the red bit, is what we spend on operating expenditure. So we collect that much money, your salaries and everything. After we pay for all the operating expenditure, we have a savings of about $896 million. That's our savings. So we then, when you have a higher savings, you have to borrow less to build. So that you can see how the savings has continuously increased over the past few years. Government debt, a lot of people don't understand debt. This is what you call a nominal amount. This is a percentage of GDP. This is the line you should be looking at, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very important line as opposed to this one. Now, all the governments, right from the Ratumara government days, have incurred debt. So the Ratumara government incurred debt. They start paying off the debt. When the Rambuka government came in, they incurred their own debt, but they have to pay the debt of the Ratumara government. When the Labour government came in, they incurred the debt. They have to pay the debt of the Rambuka government and Ratumara government. When the Garasha government came in, they incurred their own debt, but they pay off the debts of everybody else. The same way we have the situation. So out of the $5.2 billion, $2.2 billion came from the previous governments. We have incurred debts ourselves of about $3 billion. So, but the reality, our GDP is growing. You see, you know how I said our revenues increased? The pie in Fiji is getting bigger. I'll give you an example. Assuming our GDP basically means gross domestic product, which is the value essentially of our goods and services. So assuming our GDP is $100, we go out and borrow $20. That means you would say your debt to GDP ratio is 20%, because 20 over 100 is 20%, right? So the $20 would be here, and the 20% would be here. Then our GDP grows, and assuming instead of $100, we make $500. And then we go and borrow, instead of $20, we borrow $50. 2.5 times more than what we actually borrowed. But because your GDP has grown, and even though you borrowed $50 instead of $20, your debt to GDP ratio is only 10%. Because your pie has grown. So your GDP, your debt to GDP ratio will come down. You can see over here, in 2006 the total debt was $2.8 billion. As a percentage of GDP is 53.3%. Over here is 5.2 billion, but it's 47.5 only. Why? Because we have become wealthier. As a country, we've become wealthier. The value of our GDP has grown. So a lot of people think, oh, you got so much debt, a lot of people in the opposition and media, they don't understand that. Or they're trying to mislead you, and I'll show you why. Look at these countries. This is in US dollars. Look at Japan. Japan as a percent of GDP is 239.2%. The total debt, this is in US dollars, is $11.8 trillion. USA, 107.4%. In other words, they have 107.4% debt to GDP ratio. Ours is only 47%. Look at the nominal sum, 19.9 trillion. Okay, these are big countries. Canada, 92.3%, $1.4 trillion. But nobody says Canada is going, it's got a lot of debt. None of you say Canada. You all think of Canada is doing great country. USA is a great country. Japan is a great country. But let's compare ourselves to island countries. Maldives, look at their debt. Seychelles, Nauru, Mauritius, Tuvalu, Samoa, and this is where Fiji sits, $2.35 billion. Now, as a percent of GDP, we are 2.35 billion US dollars, this is in US dollars, 45.8%. Samoa, even though their debt is $413.5 million, as a percent of GDP is 52.6 because the economy is smaller. So, I went to Mauritius earlier this year, very similar to Fiji. The main economic strength came from sugar, but the government decided a few years ago, they said, look, sugar very soon will fall off. What do we do? So they did exactly what we are doing now. They did this in a bigger scale. They built 4-lane roads everywhere. They went to India, got 3 Indian hospitals, international certified hospitals, gave them incentives to come to Mauritius. They set up IT parks. And because they're close to Africa, they said to all the international companies, come and set up your base. Law and order is very good in Mauritius, and you service Africa from Mauritius. So all the big international companies are based in Mauritius, and they service Africa. Because a lot of people have this negative image about Africa, not safe, civil war and all of that. So they like to be based in Mauritius. So they say to the rich Africans, don't go to Europe for surgery, don't go to India for surgery, come to Mauritius. We have 3 hospitals and we provide the service. As a result of that, it's created jobs. So even though they've incurred very large debts, look at that, 7.5 billion US dollars, it's debt that's well spent because their productive capacity has gone up. Lot more, they're earning a lot more money now, even though they've got higher debt levels. But they can service their debt. You can see the other countries too. So for example, Australia is 41.1%, but the total debt value is $517.3 billion. And these are US dollars. This is just another comparison of those countries. These are sort of the main budget sort of taxation matters. I didn't want to, but I want to highlight something to you here, sorry. Where is it? Now, you know how I said to you about the construction industry? There's a lot of construction going on, so we want to make it easier for people to have their cost of construction go down. So we've reduced duty, like, you know, shelving, racking, scaffolding, glues, these are for tiles. You know, the glue you need to use to lay the tiles, all of that, we've reduced the duty all down to 5%. But there's one other area I'll show you. Things like this, you know, baby cots, baby shoes, baby... We've been doing this for the past 2 years, where we have been reducing the duty on baby products. As I said to you, 69.4% of the population is below the age of 40. When you have a young population, they tend to make more babies. Right? It's a fact. Those of you who deliver babies, there's a lot more babies being born in Fiji now. So we want to reduce the cost of raising a child. We've zero-rated duty. But one of the things we discovered, which we announced in this budget, is this. Even though, for example, Johnson & Johnson baby products is 0%, there's only one person who's got the sole agency for Johnson & Johnson baby products into Fiji. So he's the person who is the only person who's got the company. He then supplies it to all the supermarkets. So even though the duty used to be 32% with zero-rated duty, so you would expect the price to come down by 30%. It has not. In fact, it's gone up. Because this person, he controls the market. He can put up whatever price. You want to buy Johnson & Johnson? You have to go to that company. And he supplies to all the wholesalers and all the retailers. So as announced in the budget, what we have done, we're now working with the Fijian Competition Commission to go behind the supermarket and see who is supplying to the supermarket. If that company is the sole supplier, or there's only 2 suppliers, we will price control them also. No matter how much you reduce VAT by, it will still won't bring down the price of goods. You see, because if, for example, something's being sold in the supermarket at $100, right? And the VAT is 9%, so you pay $109. So assuming you take off the VAT, we'll say, okay, it's $100. But if the person who's supplying to the supermarket thought the price $150, it still does not bring down the price of goods. If they control the market. Nearly 60 to 70% of the things that is sold in supermarkets is supplied by only 6 companies in Fiji. They have the sole agency. Like cereal, we zero-rated cereal a few years ago, but the price of cereal still has not come down. Why? Because these people are eating up the duty concession and selling at a higher price. So that's one of the things that we are doing as far as that is concerned. There's a lot of things that we've done things like, toweling fabric. I mean, I know you can go to supermarkets now and buy towels. You wipe your body with a towel, the towel slides off and the water still remains there. That's the quality of goods we're getting. So in order to help people to bring in better quality products, we've reduced, for example, the duty on that. And ready-made towels have gone down from 32% to 15%. There's a number of other things that we've reduced the duty on. But ladies and gentlemen, this is where you can get this information. This one here is very good for you to get, budget flyers. For every single ministry, we have done a snapshot of where the major expenditures are. You can know exactly where it's gone. If you go to the flyer, for example, in Water Authority of Fiji, you'll know exactly which village is getting how many water tanks and what's the size of the water tank. You'll know which group of homes is being connected to the grid. Ram Prasad and 20 others being connected, electricity, and what's the cost of it. All that information is there. Your minister's information is there, which is here in this one, in the budget estimates. So you can go there and have a look at that and know exactly how much money CWM Hospital is getting and for how much. You'll get all of that information there, and that's on this website here. Okay? Thank you very much. Hopefully that's been a bit informative for you, but I urge you to go and read that. Thank you very much. I wish you a good evening.